Chapter 671, The Shares Are Uneven. On the way back, Nalan K tried again. Li Xiao, I'm telling you. Don't retreat so that you can advance. Don't loosen the reins only to grasp them later. Don't purposely complicate matters. If you ask me now, I may give this ring to you. Only if you promise me that. What is wrong with you ladies? Li Xiao said, we have to pass this to the higher-ups. How can we take this for ourselves? Do you not have any awareness? Don't use your way of thinking to dirty my noble sentiments. Li Xiao did not care about the ring. Incidentally, he could be more strong-willed in front of Nalan Quebec. There was no reason for him not to be happy.
Ha! Ha!
Nalan K laughed. Fine, fine. I have dirted your sentiments. You'd better not regret it. After Li Xiao returned to the villa, he felt extremely uneasy and stayed up until midnight. He told Nalan K that he was going to the toilet and secretly sneaked out to find Lu Shu. When he reached Lu Shu's room, he said softly, "How is it, brother? The gains are quite good, right?" "Not bad," said Lu Shu calmly. "Even though we have been talking about working together for so long, we have never actually done so. Back then at the Kochang Island remains, you bore so much responsibility, yet we did not reap much gains. When we managed the black market, our money was confiscated by Nieting. This time, according to our promise, you will take 90% and I will take 10%. Li Xiao was dumbfounded. "Brother, wait. Wasn't it 10% for me and 90% for you?" "That's right, 10% for me and 90% for you," Lu Shu said naturally. "Wait. My train of thought is a mess," Li Xiao said. "Don't joke around with me, brother. I only plan to take 10% of the share at first." Lu Shu was unhappy. "Am I that kind of person? Taking 90% of the share while you fight? I would never do such a thing." Li Xiao suddenly felt that he had seen this righteousness in himself this afternoon. But he did not think much about it. Lu Shu was probably different from him. He was even slightly touched. After all, this was his genuine prophet. Li Xiao shook Lu Shu's hand. "Brother, from now on, we are truly brothers. I, Li Xiao, accept this favor. I owe you one. Hurry up and show me what we have earned." Lu Shu emptied all the essential bombs on the bed, forming a small mountain. Lu Shu wasted no time in showing Li Xiao the video. He was afraid that Li Xiao did not understand English, thus he translated for him as the video played. Li Xiao looked at the essential bombs, then looked at Lu Shu, then looked at the video. He suddenly grabbed his head. "Don't translate anymore, brother. My head is starting to hurt." From Li Xiao's distress, plus 999. So that was what had happened. Li Xiao deliberated for a while. Suddenly, he said, "How about you take 90% of the share and I take 10% of the share? Then you'll owe me one. How about it?" Lu Shu said buoyantly, "That won't do. We have already talked about it. You'll take 90% and I'll take 10%. I can't take advantage of you." Li Xiao was about to explode. Thinking about what he had told Nalan K that afternoon, he had spoken too soon. From Li Xiao's distress, plus 999. The competition for the mineral resources was reaching its conclusion. Some dubbed the conflict between the Phoenix Society and the Department of Faith Theory as the starting point for the strange phenomena in the realm of cultivation. At first, Lu Shu thought that he would follow the group and head to Europe. He did not expect the Heavenly Network to suddenly issue a command. Everyone was to return to China. This was the command that the others had received. Lu Shu had received a different command. He had to reach a specific place by a certain time to coordinate with a new team. This was not unexpected. When Li Ganyu and the rest had come here to represent the Heavenly Network in the negotiations with EO, everyone focused on their identities. Although not all the large organizations around the world were present, the focus was still concentrated in Africa. Everyone was astonished when the Heavenly Network eventually took advantage of the situation. People started to look into their identities. All of them should have used unofficial identities to interact with and form alliances with other organizations. But this team led by Xia Runsheng had become the center of attention and representative of the Heavenly Network. Thus, if they were to continue on to Europe, another team had to take over. The Heavenly Network based their judgment on the current situation. After encountering the saint, the Department of Faith Theory would most likely set off a massive chain effect in Europe. The situation in Europe had escalated. Sending a team of secret practitioners there would be equivalent to sending them to their deaths. They did not need anyone to target them. They would probably be unable to withstand a stray bullet among the chaos. This turn of events was unexpected, but reasonable. Even Li Yixiao and Nalin Ke had to withdraw even before others had the intention of fighting them. This was to prevent them from being surrounded. According to the information from the Heavenly Network, 3 Class B experts had come to Africa the day after Li Yixiao and Nalin Ke killed Bennett. No one knew what their objective was. But they came at this exact timing. Furthermore, they were all experts whose ferocity was well known within the realm of cultivation. As for their objective, Lu Shu had probably guessed 80% of it. It seemed as if the real hunt had begun in the realm of cultivation. Li Yixiao led the team. That night, everyone rode the cargo ferry back. Li Yixiao suddenly stood on the deck and waved to someone far away in the dark. Some people looked in the direction he was waving in, but they could not see anything. Suddenly, someone asked, "Wait. Where is Li Teng? Wasn't he with us just now?" Lu Shu had accompanied the team up until they entered the harbor. He took the chance while no one was paying attention to sneak off. No matter how much Li Ganyu and the rest tried to look for Lu Shu, they could not find him. Suddenly, they realized that Li Teng was very mysterious. He had adopted a nonchalant attitude throughout the entire mission. Thinking about it, they had many suspicions. Zhong Yutong had met Xia Rensheng before. Thus, when Xia Rensheng saw Li Yixiao waving, he suddenly understood that there may have been an expert in his team that he did not recognize. This expert's level was so high that even he did not have the right to know about him. Lu Shu stood in the dark and watched the cargo ship sail away. He turned back and walked into the wilderness. Ever since the dawn of the magically rich era, hunting down heavenly kings seemed to be the target of experts who were used to the smell of blood. It had become a form of honor. But no one had done it before. But for some reason, when Lu Shu saw this piece of information, he became angry. At the same time, Nye Ting was in the Luhai Lane courtyard house. He calmly passed a coded message to Zhao Yongchen, who was in Africa. "Have you told Lu Shu everything that I asked you to say?" Chapter 672, Until we meet again. "I've said it before. I followed your orders exactly. But it seems like he was not affected." "No worries. He is a very objective person. It is impossible to affect him with just 2 or 3 sentences. Has there been any reaction from him over the past 2 days?" Nye Ting asked. "He made me help him find the 3 Class B experts who have just entered Africa," said Zhao Yongchen. "Then find them." As Nye Ting finished speaking, he calmly picked up the bowl of millet gruel that Shi Shuajin had placed in front of him. Did he say anything else? "Tonight," he said, "I know that Nye Ting is behind every word you say. Next time, don't entertain this kind of trickster," Zhao Yongchen said after some hesitation. Nye Ting suddenly raised his eyebrows. "He called me a trickster." From Nye Ting's distress, plus 599. "What else did he say?" Nye Ting asked as he rubbed his temples. Zhao Yongchen paused. "Come, let's harm each other." That's exactly what he said. From Nye Ting's distress, plus 299. Suddenly, Zhao Yongchen saw a bearded man appear on the surveillance screen that was hidden under the counter. The security camera was located 500 meters away from the supermarket, under a bird nest in a tree. There was a yellow street lamp there, standing in silence. The bird nest was fake, but sometimes there were birds who took a rest in the nest. Occasionally, there would be bird poop on the camera. Zhao Yongchen was very frustrated and regretted installing the security camera there. But there was no other hiding spot. Zhao Yongchen stared wide-eyed at the Caucasian bearded man. He looked up and smiled at the security camera. The smile was full of confidence, as if he was smiling at Zhao Yongchen himself. The smile was wildly arrogant and cruel. It was as if he did not care about Zhao Yongchen behind the camera. There were 3 Class B experts. One of them was Greer Cook. Suddenly, gray clouds gathered in the skies, and it started raining heavily. Niating heard Zhao Yongchen's heavy breathing. What happened? Heavenly King Nia. I've been discovered. Zhao Yongchen said softly, it's been 5 years since I last returned. Is it spring there now? Africa is hot as hell. It's spring. Summer is coming. There is already the sound of cicadas. Niating unconsciously crushed his bowl of millet gruel to the side. The bowl fell on the floor and the millet gruel spilled all over. The walnut trees in Luhai Lane are about to bloom, right? It's been a long time since I last visited. Zhao Yongchen left the Heavenly Network 5 years ago, when Luhai Lane was in danger. Ever since then, he had been alone in Africa for 5 years. When he left, it was still autumn in the capital. When he left the capital then, he looked back at the city. It felt like goodbye, for good. It was as if he was a solitary boat entering the sea, with no specified date of return. The horses trotted slowly on the ancient streets of Chang'an. There was the sound of cicadas from the willows. Under the light of the evening sun, the autumn wind blew. He looked into the distance. The sun set below the horizon. Niating looked up and looked at the walnut tree above him. The flowers of the walnut tree were more beautiful than any other tree. Escape. You are allowed to reveal your identity. I can't escape. Heavenly King Nia, take care. After Zhao Yongchen finished speaking, he hung up the phone. There was silence. Zhao Yongchen took out a packet of fake cigarettes and lit one. He choked on it. I deserve it after selling fake goods for so long. He quickly pressed the button on the back on his phone. A new page appeared on the screen. There was a countdown timer for 1 minute. Zhao Yongchen quickly sent a mass message. The messaging system has been activated. Everyone, report your status. Safe. 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 Everyone who had received the message knew when the messaging system had been activated, something had happened. Suddenly, everyone fell silent. There was only 1 minute left to communicate. Zhao Yongchen sent another mass message. 1 month later, someone else will take over my job. Everyone, hold your positions and remain silent. Received. 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 Thank you for your sincere cooperation all these years. Until we meet again. Until we meet again. Until we meet again. Until we meet again. 1 minute was up. Zhao Yongchen's phone started to emit a green smoke. The self-destruction process was complete. He threw the fake cigarette on the floor and stepped on it. There were no files to be destroyed. Whatever needed to be destroyed had already been destroyed. After many years of working, he developed the habit of memorizing everything. Zhao Yongchen's face turned red. His power steadily increased. They often joked that in the Heavenly Network, exhausting one's vitality to advance in class was very glorious in the realm of cultivation. In Zhao Yongchen's eyes, they were not burning their lives, but their final dignity. A fake Class B, this was Zhao Yongchen's limit. Dong dong dong. Someone was knocking on the door. Zhao Yongchen laughed. How funny. You already know who's inside, yet you still knocked. The next moment, Zhao Yongchen spat out a flying sword. The sharp sword flew towards the person outside the door. He held his long sword and rushed out as well. The red flying sword broke the glass door of the supermarket. It flew through the pouring rain outside. It was as if time had stopped. The flying sword pierced through the raindrops and approached Greer. The next moment, the raindrops seemed to have gained a life of their own. They rapidly gathered by Greer and formed a shield. It was as if there was murderous intent concealed in this rain. Greer was all smiles. He stepped backwards. The raindrops continued to form water curtains that the red flying sword could not pierce through. There was the sound of an explosion. Zhao Yongchen drew his sword with a stern expression on his face. The high temperature rapidly dropped in the rain. As the ground had been exposed to sunlight in the day, there was steam rising from the ground. Zhao Yongchen suddenly slashed his sword upwards. He broke the water curtain and approached Greer. He had even cut a portion of Greer's beard. Greer, who had been smiling all along, suddenly had a cold expression on his face. Are you not afraid to die? Zhao Yongchen said slowly, whether I am afraid to die or not is not important. Whether I will die tonight is not important either. I only know that after tonight, no matter how big the world is, there will never be a place for you to stay. You overestimate the heavenly network. You overestimate yourself. The flying swords flew through the air like flying dragons. As Greer protected himself, he saw the red flying sword split into two. The two parts flew behind Greer. This came very suddenly. Many people knew that the strength of the heavenly network's flying swords was unparalleled. They could easily kill 10 people in an evenly matched battle. This was the reason why back then, during the fight between Chen Bailey and Anthony had to run away and hide for the time being even though Chen Bailey was exhausted. No matter how monstrous the enemy was, a flying sword was enough to overcome them. Chapter 673, The World's Mourning. It was widely known that each member of the Heavenly Network could only support one flying sword due to the limit of his innate power, but Zhao Yongchen was different. He gained huge profits from selling fake products, and bought nutritious supplements for himself to boost his physical strength. This way, he might be able to support 2 flying swords. In his own words, he had been a dishonest businessman to safeguard his own chances of surviving. Speaking of my overestimation of the heavenly network, Zhao Yongchen said with a smile, I'm afraid you aren't familiar with our sword, nor Nieting's knife. The sudden splitting of the red sword was not expected by Greer. His water curtain had formed a line of defense in front of him, but it was breached by the swords attacking from his back. Instantly Greer boosted his power. In the blink of an eye, most of his spirit chi gushed out like a flood. At that instant, it was as though time had stopped. Under Greer's control, the raindrops shot outwards like rays of light, clashing with the red flying swords. And Greer himself had transformed into a water human, moving swiftly in the rain curtain to avoid the flying swords. Zhao Yongchen's sharp blade forced Greer to the right, but the latter still did not manage to dodge the attack. I underestimated you, said Greer. He had returned to his human form. Blood was oozing out of his chest and back. Never had he expected that he would be wounded by a Class C intelligence agent. After all, it was no easy feat to turn into his water form because it took immense willpower to prevent his mind from assimilating with the water. In the past, a water-type expert named Earl gave up his human form forever in the process, but Greer was unwilling to do so. His heart would have been punctuated by the 2 flying swords had he dodged slightly slower. But Zhao Yongchen was not as lucky. He stood in the rain, holding his long sword in his right hand. Seconds earlier, Greer's raindrops had attacked from all directions, which had breached the protection of Zhao Yongchen's spirit chi armor. It's not my day today. I shouldn't have sold so many fake goods. I should have sold some real ones too, Zhao Yongchen sighed, gazing into the sky. Blood gushed out from all over his body. Damn it, why is it raining now?
Goodbye,
brothers. I, Zhao Yongchen, will never regret this journey with you. Then he collapsed. Greer remained silent in the rain. He almost got himself killed. Indeed, he was wrong about underestimating the heavenly network. But it seemed that they were too late as the two heavenly kings had already left, which made the intended killing spree turn boring. At this moment, Greer suddenly sensed murderous intent in the surroundings as the temperature dropped around him. He immediately turned and saw a young man standing at the other end of the street. Looking at Zhao Yongchen's dead body, the man's eyes were calm, so was the rain. Lu Shu had wanted to say
goodbye
to Zhao Yongchen after he sent Li Xiao off, but he did not know that they had already bid farewell the previous time. It was truly saddening that the first scene to welcome his return was like this. Then, the ocean surface in the deepest part of his heart suddenly started rolling, as though a beast was trying to escape from the water to destroy everything. Lu Shu felt that the beast had always been a prisoner of his heart. It had never been released before. Another dead man, Greer said, smiling. He stepped towards Lu Shu across the puddles of water. Yet, to his consternation, his favorite rain curtain suddenly turned into a cage in the next instant. I used to think that this world was full of warmth, despite the occasional chill, Lu Shu said calmly. Why can't we spend our lives in peace? Why must we fight and kill? Oh. What about now? Greer raised his eyebrows. Actually his beard could move with his brows too, but it was half gone due to Zhao Yongchen. Now, I want to kill someone. Lu Shu grinned. His white teeth flashed in the rain, cold as an icy blade. In the next second, the celestial map in Lu Shu's chest started spinning wildly. The seventh star had come to the sky over the third level of the celestial map, shedding eternal light to the space. The remaining stars began spinning too, as though the world was now complete. Grief was like a light rain, or threads of silk. When you unraveled the outer layer to reveal a saddened heart, you would realize that grief was endless. The third sword, Sparrow Shade, emerged on the third level of the celestial map. More precisely, Sparrow Shade was more like a thorn full of cracks than a conventional sword. Upon closer inspection, those lines were not cracks. The Sparrow Shade was in fact comprised of 36 fine threads, entangled together in a delicate yet perfect manner. Upon Lu Shu's call, the Sparrow Shade disassembled elegantly and flew swiftly in his celestial map. At that instant, before Greer was clear about what had happened, grief arose in his heart. For some reason, he was almost moved to tears. 1 kilometer away, a stray dog, which was scavenging for food in the rubbish bin, suddenly collapsed to the floor and started sobbing. The asleep residents nearby suddenly woke up and cried mournfully too. The entire place was shrouded in grief as Lu Shu made his ascension. There was an unusual phenomenon during the initial opening of Lu Shu's Qi Mountain, and it happened again with the unlocking of the third level of his celestial map. Most civilians in the region had evacuated after the Eos fight in the afternoon. Thus, there were not many witnesses of this sight. Greer was astounded. This was similar to the heavenly visions that would only happen with one's ascension to Class A. Silently, Sparrow Shade flew out of Lu Shu's celestial map. It had almost blended in with the evening rain. By rights, Greer could sense his surroundings through raindrops. Yet, at this moment, he had lost all control over the rain. His dominance in the rain had been stolen away. The heavy downpour, which used to be his fighting stage, had now become his cage. Splatter. A drop of rain fell on Greer's shoulder, dyeing his shirt red. To his astonishment, the raindrop was unbelievably sharp. Li Xianyi could wield leaves as his swords, because he could infuse the leaves with his sword energy. As a water-type metahuman, Lu Shu had turned raindrops into the best carrier of his sword energy. It was not any other ordinary rainfall, but a rain of swords, specially made for Greer. It was as if the sky had fallen. Sword rain, good name, thought Lu Shu. Now, he liked rain. This night, Lu Shu had officially ascended to Class B, within a radius of 1 kilometer. The world was mourning, and the downpour had turned into a rain of swords. Greer wished he were somewhere else instead. Chapter 674, Karma. The water element that Greer could control was restricted to within 3 meters around him. This was unprecedented. Hundreds of raindrop aura blades hovered above him, ready to fall down anytime. The only plausible explanation for this situation was that this man in front of him was of much higher level than himself. But Greer found the occurrence of the heavenly visions inexplicable, as well as the strange phenomena associated with this man's visions. Besides, the man's sudden ascension had resulted in his abilities becoming much higher than a Class B beginner, but not yet a Class A. Greer was struggling to break free out of his own rain curtain, like a trapped beast. To his confusion, he realized the man had no intention to kill him with his apparent advantage in water-type powers. Then he understood that his opponent did not want to give him an easy death. He was almost suffocated by the man's pride. Why was he so confident about his strength? One thing that was particularly captivating about the realm of cultivation was that it was full of miracles. The innate powers of humans were exploited to the fullest, and maybe one day a single person could overthrow an entire nation using his own strength. But the path to glory was paved by dead bodies. While some people could claim the final victory and go down in history as a legend, others would only end up as the winner's stepping stones. This was the reality. Greer now understood that his death was inevitable that night. With a soft hiss, a gray strand of the sparrow shade, as thin as hair, emerged under the cover of the evening rain. It punctured Greer's shoulder like a serpent the second it appeared. The 36 strands of sparrow shade was a good match for the murderous atmosphere on this night. It was impossible to predict where the next strand would appear. Lu Shu paced slowly on the drenched floor. Zhao Yongchen's death was not the first tonight, and you won't be the last. Just die. I will let you experience the suffering Zhao Yongchen has gone through. The sparrow shade punctuated Greer's body over and over again. Splashes of blood dissolved in the rain, leaving behind huge bloody pools on the ground. 31 wounds. Each of them corresponded to Zhao Yongchen's wounds caused by Greer's fatal raindrops. In fact, Greer's injuries were even more serious than Zhao Yongchen's, because all the cuts penetrated his body, but the raindrops did not. Slowly Greer collapsed to the ground, coughing out blood continuously. The bloody bubbles looked particularly malignant in the puddles of rain. After you've killed me, what then? Greer laughed wanly. There are countless people out there who want to take the lives of your heavenly network. Can you stop all of them? Lu Shu paused. Why aren't you dead yet? Greer's injury was much more deadly than Zhao Yongchen's, so why was he still conscious? Honestly speaking, though, his wounds did not seem that fatal after all. But Zhao Yongchen was really lying there, dead. Then there was a cough. Who was coughing? Lu Shu looked at Greer, who was staring back at him, confused. Apparently it was not him. Stunned, Lu Shu turned to see Zhao Yongchen struggling to sit up. Damn it! The pain. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Were you a cockroach in your last life? How could you be so full of life with such a serious injury? Both Greer and Lu Shu had assumed that Zhao Yongchen was dead. Otherwise, Lu Shu would not have been so full of grief as to produce the sparrow shade. Was it a joke now that you were bleeding all over? Actually, Zhao Yongchen's vital body parts had been well protected because his spirit qi was concentrated in those areas of his armor. Although his spirit qi was thinner in other areas, he had ensured his own survival. Lu Shu decided to help Zhao Yongchen and leave Greer aside. When Greer tried to seize the opportunity and escape, the raindrop aura blades hanging above him suddenly came falling down. Those raindrops penetrated his flesh, his bones, and his soul. Greer collapsed to the floor again. This time, he was dead for good. In his last moments, he thought he might have run into the very heavenly king hidden by the heavenly network all this while. They had vowed to hunt for heavenly kings, but in fact, they themselves were the prey. After all, heavenly kings represented the top powers of the cultivation realm. Lu Shu supported Zhao Yongchen and walked towards the mini-mart. You are really very lucky. Since there were no fatal wounds, he would not die with the supreme healing abilities of a Class C. This was a practitioner's advantage, they would recover fully sooner or later. Nonetheless, Zhao Yongchen's foundation had been destroyed. He had exhausted his vitality, which meant no further ascension was ever possible. Zhao Yongchen squeezed out a faint smile. I've got my karma. Now it seems that those small mistakes I made last year when I set the scene are very dangerous after all. I was careless. Lu Shu could not understand what he was referring to. He helped him to lie down on a chair and said, "Rest well. Don't worry about the rest." "Give me a cigarette and a can of Coke," said Zhao Yongchen, "I just escaped from death. In the past, I never dared to try soft drinks because I thought they're only for the young. But now I say, screw it. I may die any day. Why not enjoy my life while I still have the life to do it?" In silence, Lu Shu brought over a can of Coke. Then, he pulled off the tab, but the can remained sealed. From Zhao Yongchen's distress, plus 666. Karma. It's my karma. Zhao Yongchen found it both embarrassing and hilarious. It was all thanks to the days he sold fake goods. "Well," said Lu Shu, feeling slightly embarrassed too, "is there anybody to take over from you?" "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Someone will come to check tomorrow at 10 a.m. He'll take me away at that time," replied Zhao Yongchen. "How about you? Any plans?" Lu Shu paused for 2 seconds. "I want to kill." Zhao Yongchen fell into silence too. He knew Lu Shu wanted to wipe out the remaining 2 Class Bs, but it was too dangerous. Zhao Yongchen suddenly asked, "What are you going to do, my lord?" Stunned for a second, Lu Shu answered with a smile, "To wreak havoc in the heavenly palace." "What if you can't return?" "Then so be it." Quickly and confidently, Lu Shu walked into the darkness outside. His figure disappeared into the dark and rainy night. Chapter 675, I was too careless. The rain poured on all night. Lu Shu was seemingly one with the rain. The sparrow shade continued to shuttle back and forth in the rain. It was lively and full of murderous intent. Lu Shu had probably never thought that a day like this would come, where he avenged his comrade, and returned filled with anger in the rain at night. He had also never thought that the world had become so cruel. The fact that Zhao Yongchen was alive made Lu Shu very happy. He was not even this happy when he had advanced to Class B, he suddenly wanted to drink some alcohol. When he opened a can, he would say to Zhao Yongchen, "Have you heard? Legend has it that if the tab of a can." But Lu Shu did not say anything. He walked into the night and started his massacre. Pitter-patter. There was the sound of Lu Shu's footsteps in the rain. The yellow street lamp started to flicker, as if it would go out at any time. The surrounding buildings were destroyed beyond repair. It was as if they were in the ruins of a city. He suddenly stopped under the street lamp. He was silent for a long time. "What? Where are the 2 of them?" Lu Shu looked up at the street lamp. He was slightly depressed. "I was too careless. I forgot to ask Zhao Yongchen for information." Lu Shu was not quite willing to walk back. After all, he was extremely attractive when he walked into the night rain. If he walked back again, the effect would definitely weaken significantly. Should he go back and ask Zhao Yongchen? Lu Shu was in a dilemma. At that moment, the phone in Lu Shu's pocket lit up. Lu Shu fished out the phone and saw the piece of information. They will enter the northeast part of the city in 20 minutes. Lu Shu kept his phone in his pocket. The information from the Heavenly Network was as reliable as usual. The capital, Luhai Lane. Nie Ting stood in the courtyard in a black Chinese suit. Shi Xuejin took out a black cloak and wore it. I've checked. Greer Cook is employed by a pirate in the Caribbean. After he awakened, he had always helped this pirate to burn, kill, and loot. His water-type abilities are very suitable for battles on sea. I will send the pirate's exact location to you in a while. Watch out for my message. Nie Ting nodded his head and held on to his suit. The walnut trees started to shake. Nie Ting flew up and rushed to the east. He had wanted to let Lu Shu have some sense of belonging to this organization. Now that Lu Shu was alone fighting in Africa, Nie Ting also suddenly wanted to kill some people. Lu Shu leaned on a street lamp at the only southeast entrance of the dilapidated city. The street lamp he was leaning on was not very sturdy. The creaking sound that was produced as he leaned on the lamp made people uncomfortable. In the distance, two people slowly walked out from the water curtain. They looked at Lu Shu with a serious expression on their faces. Lu Shu broke out into a smile. You're finally here. I have always wanted to ask you one question. You have hunted down heavenly kings in a frenzy for glory, but have you thought about the consequences? He wanted to know whether these people knew fear. But there was no use talking sense into crazy people. The two of them remained silent. Lu Shu slowly stood up straight. There was the sound of something being ripped apart. The street lamp finally went out. One of the Class B experts made his move first. It was as if the ground was about to crack under the force of his footsteps. Lu Shu felt that this metahuman was quite special. He was a strength-type metahuman. As of present day, there was a heated discussion regarding the fall of the strength-type metahumans. Lu Shu had just encountered one. He was not big and tall, but Lu Shu could feel boundless power from his entire body. He drew two black daggers from his waist as fast as lightning. The greatest advantage of strength-type metahumans was their speed and power. From the start, he had intended to quickly get close to Lu Shu. The next moment, Lu Shu drew his Cheng-Ying sword. The celestial map allowed Lu Shu to advance and have the same physique as a strength type. Thus, before he advanced, he was slightly weaker than other Class Bs, but after he had advanced, he was much stronger. When he encountered a real strength-type metahuman, Lu Shu also wanted to know what would happen when his strength type and swordplay were combined. Lu Shu was at full concentration. The moment they clashed, he suddenly lowered his body and dodged the daggers. He slashed his sword. The sword weaved through the daggers like a poisonous snake and attacked the Class B expert's lower jaw. He was planning to pierce through his head. The Class B strength-type metahuman thought that he would get the upper hand when he approached Lu Shu. But he had miscalculated. Lu Shu was slightly faster than him. He was a middle Class B strength-type metahuman. Even peak Class Bs were not as fast as he was. In his eyes, there was nothing in Lu Shu's hands. But great danger followed. When the sword was about to touch his jaw, he had no choice but to retreat backwards. He did not dare to bet whether there was anything in Lu Shu's hands. Lu Shu was an expert in swordplay. Coupled with the Cheng-Ying sword, he was giving the strength-type metahuman a lot of pressure. Waitley, the Class B expert, clearly saw where Lu Shu's sword slashed as he stepped back. Suddenly, a raindrop was sliced into two halves by the invisible sword. The raindrop that was cut into half could have been his head. He was shocked. There was really a weapon in Lu Shu's hand. Lu Shu had no intention of letting him off. He took a small step forward, causing the water to splash about. The next moment, he lowered his waist and raised his leg. He aimed at Waitley's chest and exerted all his strength. Waitley could only leave two small cuts on Lu Shu's leg using his dagger, before he was sent flying backwards like a kite. When Lu Shu wanted to continue to chase him, the street lamps on both sides of the street, as well as the steel bars in the houses suddenly rushed towards Lu Shu. A metal-type metahuman. But before the metal bars could reach Lu Shu, the sparrow shade shuttled back and forth in the rain. The metal seemed to turn into dust all at the same time. Lu Shu stopped in his tracks and calmly looked at the two people in the rain. Waitley slowly stood up and wiped the blood on the side of his mouth. He would no longer think that he would be able to easily deal with Lu Shu. Suddenly, his chest started to hurt. If he was not a strength-type metahuman, he would have broken more than just half of his ribs from that one kick. The young man stood in the rain with his sword. He was like a mountain. No one could move him. Blood flowed out from the two cuts on Lu Shu's leg. The blood flowed down his leg and into a puddle on the ground. It was like dye that had been diluted. Lu Shu had a calm expression on his face. I will ask you one more time. You have hunted down heavenly kings for glory like mad dogs, but have you thought about the consequences?
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.